Hey everybody, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to do this. It's very important to me. My name is Jimmy and I'm a recovering alcoholic and an addict. I'm going to tell you briefly about my story and where I started, where I went, and where I'm at now. I was the vice president of my high school. I did community service corps. I used to help out neighbors. I was just a good kid. And, life was life. It shows up. So when I was about 12 years old, I started drinking. On the weekends, I still remember the first time I drank half a bottle of Tanqueray, and I wound up in the hospital getting my stomach pumped. At that time, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just a kid doing a kid thing. Throughout high school, I continued to drink here and there on the weekends. It was socially acceptable to where I lived at to be 16 or 17 years old in a bar. I grew up in South Philadelphia. It's a very blue-collar neighborhood with a lot of union workers, and that was our outlet, and it was okay. I went and played football at a Division I program. I was an athlete. So for those 4 years, life was great. I started playing a little bit my sophomore year. I started as a junior and senior, and I thought everything was just, I thought I was going to the NFL. That didn't happen. I blew out my shoulder, and I was prescribed pain medication. In the beginning, I was taking it as needed, and then I would take one more. I really, really liked that feeling. From 2005 to 2014, I was in active addiction. I went to treatment 18 times. Football was my outlet. That got out all my anger and my frustration that I had towards my mother and my father and my sisters. It numbed me. I had no emotion. I wasn't very good with dealing with emotion. It just made me feel like not a care in the world. I didn't care what happened. It was all about me. Addiction ruined my life, but recovery gave me a new one. So as a football player at a Division I school with 100 kids on the team, I was able to hide it. I also suffered from being bipolar. My sophomore year of college, I was put on a medication to help with that. And I didn't see it then, but what would happen is the medication would start working, and I'd be like, I'm fine, I don't need this. So I would stop taking my medication. And I do think my mental health played a role in this. And it was easy to hide. I never did a drug until I went to college outside of alcohol. So everyone was doing something here and there. They did the same stuff that I did. I just became addicted to it. The same pill they took, the same pot they smoked. That was, they were able to do it and walk away. I did it and went on a 12-year run. There's 100 guys on a team or 15 girls on a team or whatever the number may be. I assure you one thing, there are studies done statistically, there's going to be someone on that team that is addicted. It's just the way it is. And it was almost like a joke. They didn't realize how serious it was. There was days that I just wanted to die, because I didn't like the way I felt. I wasn't okay with me. I did a lot of bad things, I stole $10,000 worth of copper. I actually, I cheated on my wife quite often. I stole from my family. That's the one that hurts the most, is stealing from my family. The majority of the world has drank alcohol or smoked a joint or did something along those lines. And, they can do it on a Friday and then never do it from a year from now. My issue was I couldn't walk away. And I'm talking to the people that might have a little bit of a feeling. It all starts with a cup, a red Solo cup that parents say it's okay to drink in the basement as long as you're at my house. And that might sound crazy, but that's where this all begins. And at young ages, we are very vulnerable and we do give in to the pressures of society. I would tell someone to be themselves, and to listen to their parents. Because growing up, I didn't think my parents knew anything. At 34 years old, everything my father told me and my mother told me was to make my life better. First time I went to treatment was 2007, and it was 4 days after my daughter was born. I thought my daughter was going to save me. I thought that was going to be the reason why I'm going to stop using drugs and I'm going to get sober. All it did was add another pressure on my life. It made me feel like, how am I supposed to be a father? I can't stop doing this. I want to stop doing this. Every time I went to treatment, I wanted to stop. I couldn't because I wasn't willing to do any type of work on myself. I just wanted osmosis to come in and say, hey, you're sober. This is great. It didn't work that way. I was fearful, I was lonely, and I was very sad. I lost my children for a little bit. Not by the courts or anything like that, but they didn't want to be around me because of my addiction. I decided to do something a little different. I was living in a halfway house in Philadelphia, around the corner from my house. I went and see my kids. I went back to the halfway house. In my mind, I was saying, get high, get high. And I was so afraid that I was going to, that I decided to go up, put a gun in my mouth, and pull the trigger. It jammed. The next day, I was on a plane to Florida. That's actually where I got sober. The whole goal in Florida was to be there for a year, work on myself, and see what happens. I was very blessed to be able to go down there and find out who I was. A year turned into 2 years. So for those 2 years down there, I continued to work on myself. I continued to figure out who I was. And that's when I got a job working in treatment. And I found out that I love helping people. And that's what my goal is here each day. It's to help the next person. I don't look down on anyone. I don't judge anyone because I've been there. You know, there's a lot of stories that I could get into, but that's not about this. This is about like the process of wanting to get sober and not being able to do it. I personally chose to go to AA meetings. I found a sponsor and I did some work. That's where this all got better. I started to realize like there's someone, like for me to turn over all my issues to a higher power. Now I don't care who the higher power is, but you need to find someone. Something stronger than you. You know, it was because I was insecure with me. I wore all these masks because I didn't know who I was. And once I started to peel those masks off, I wasn't the football player anymore. I was Jimmy. Jimmy's okay. You know, I put a lot of work into getting sober. You know, I lost my family. I had no financial means. Everyone, in the beginning, everyone was like all happy that I was going to treatment. My family was there. And at the end, everyone was gone and I was by myself. And what I found out is Jimmy's a good person. You know, Jimmy cares about others. Jimmy loves his family. And that's the biggest thing that I gained from this. I've been very blessed because I actually had a son in sobriety and I've been able to be there for every step of the way. I actually have primary custody of him. But being able to be a present father, going to my daughter's basketball games, picking my son up, those type of things are better than any financial gain. They're better than, you know, the relationships because these children didn't ask to be bought into this chaos. And I brought the chaos into their life. So today I get to be a better dad, a better human being. I'm able to sit down with another alcoholic or an addict and meet them where they're at. After all these treatment centers, jail, detox, treatment, you know, living on the street, I'm a successful person. And it's not because of the job I have. It's not because of the things I gained. It's because I found peace of mind with me. I'm very grateful. You know, I have those relationships that I wanted back in my life. I didn't speak to my father for close to a year. He's one of my best friends now. You may be the one that's addicted, and that's okay. But reach out to somebody for help. There's plenty of help and people willing to do it. As long as I can help one person, I'm doing my job.